Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. It's raining cats and dogs outside here in Melbourne, but it's early start of the day in South Africa. So I'd like to welcome here today the Chairman of Wits Mining, Mr. Michael Quinert, and the CEO, Jaak van Heerden, who are going to both together talk to us about the recent announced toll treatment agreement, the significance of that to the company, and why this really turns the key on the company moving forward. So I'm going to hand it over firstly to Jaak, just to give us a bit of a run through on the toll treatment agreement, the partners that they're doing it with, and some of the timing and other concepts to go with it. Over to you, Jaak.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Good afternoon, everybody dialing in. Thank you for your time. We haven't had a webinar like this for a while, so we thought it's a good opportunity for myself and Michael just to give you a quick update of where we are and the significance of the announcement that we recently made. One of the key things for this project has always been, and we've always been very open about this, is that for us to have reduced the capital to the amounts that we've been able to do so, we needed a tolling agreement. We always knew that there was significant process capacity available for us in the area, and it took us a while to let's say to get into a position where we could sign an agreement with one of the major players in South Africa here, and then we're happy to announce that we've been able to conclude a deal with Sibanye Gold, which operates the Ezulweni plant, which is about 40 kilometers away from us. Historically, we've mined open pits before in this area, and we've been treating at that plant, in the past as well. So we understand the conditions there. We understand the people that work there. So I think it's fortunate for us that we've been able to conclude this deal, because it's something that's quite familiar to us. Unfortunately, it took a bit longer for us to conclude the deal, but we're there now, and we now ready to go. And I think if you can just allow me a couple of seconds, I just want to take you through the work that we've already done. So I'm going to call up our presentation that we've issued to the market a couple of weeks ago. So then let me just put that on full screen mode there. Right. So I just want to start with this slide. So in the past, about a year ago in December, we finished off our feasibility study, and then that prompted us to install or construct our site infrastructure. And there you can see that the photo here shows that our site infrastructure is ready. We've got the change houses, we've got the offices in place, we've got a small little ore stockpile already in place. But more importantly, we've got our box cut, our key access point into the mine already established. And we've got our ventilation shaft already established. So as we've always said, we set up this mine, we're ready to go. I'm going to skip through a couple of slides we don't have to go into all this detail. I'm sure you guys have been following us with this. But I just want to sort of area that's produced a lot of gold over the area. Everything is very well understood in this area. We've got a significant ore resource of 4.3 million ounces. We understand there you can see the size of the block that we want to mine and get into operation now. It's about 800 meters by 2,000 meters on strike, and then with the ability to even go deeper down to about 2,000 meters in future. So we've got a significant mine there. And I just want to jump to this slide where you can see, following on the work that we've done up until now. I showed you the site infrastructure now, and then also we've got the box cut in place. This gray line that you can see there on the screen, that's the excavations that we've done up until now. The excavations are now ready to go. They're on reef. So the very first blast, once we start mining, will be in ore, and then we'll be building our stockpile as we said in the announcement, we'll build a stockpile up to about 30,000 tons. Once we're at that level, that will then sort of put us into a position where we can then start feeding the plant at about 15,000 tons and then building that up to 50,000 tons, right? So, and that's why this announcement about the plant is so important, because this now allows us to start treating the ore that we've been mining. So the minute that we start mining, we'll build a stockpile for about 6 months, 5 months, and then after 5 months, we'll start then delivering ore to the plant. So yeah, thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Jack. I just turned off my screen. We were having a bit of streaming buffering there, but I think it's okay. We had a successful roadshow recently. We went all around the country, and there's some good questions. We had some great audiences. I think we probably saw in excess of 50, 60 different brokers, analysts, and investors. Some of the questions included the early stage ore building period, to get the ore up and ready for you to ship so that you can continue a solid stream of ore to the processing facility. How long first of all, how long will it take to build that ore stockpile? I think you mentioned it earlier. And then once in process, how long to see cash flow starting to come into the company?
Peter, as I just mentioned, and that you can see on this graph that's now on the screen, the minute that we start mining, we are actually on ore, even though it's development. So the grade is going to be at about, say, 1.5 gram a ton, because it's development grade. The excavation is, dilutes the gold reef that runs through it. But then as we open up more mining phases, the grade will gradually improve up to the 3 gram a ton that we've been talking about, 3.5 gram a ton that we've been talking about. So our plan is to start building, because we're on reef, and the first blast that we take will generate ore. We'll build that stockpile up to about 30,000 tons. Once we have that size, then we're confident we've de-risked the mining, we understand the mining, and then we'll start feeding the plant. And our previous experience have shown that we've got that Sibanye is great payers. We'll be generating cash flow basically from the second month that we start sending ore to the plant. So, we'll be very quick to start generating cash flow into the company.
And all things going well, when do you think you'll start that process?
Peter, we can talk about the funding arrangement now, but the minute that we are able to then have the funds available, we can place the commitments on the equipment suppliers, which we've already identified.
Yes.
And also the mining contractor. The mining contractor and the equipment suppliers are basically waiting for us to give them the green light to start. So our plan is to start early in the new year. Conclude or at least some of the fundraising still this year. Then early in the new year, then get the guys to start establishing site. And then, basically once they've established site, then from the 1st of, I would estimate probably from the 1st of April, then start mining and start building the stockpile.
That leads into the question probably for Michael. Now that you have the toll treatment agreement in place, that must, in the eyes of other funding partners, reduce the risks that they had seen and will allow you to negotiate on terms for larger funding requirements.
Yeah, Peter, I think the main thing is momentum. I mean, we've been ground to a halt while we're waiting for the toll treatment agreement to be finalised, but it's a critical piece of the puzzle. I mean, the toll treatment agreement provides the whole basis for the funding, particularly with the banks. So the advice we received and we took was not to approach, in a formal sense, the first line banks until we had the toll treatment agreement in place and until the terms of the toll treatment agreement were such as to sustain a long-term banking commitment. So that's what we did. It took more time than we wanted, and we apologise for that, as Jark did, but that's what it took. And we actually had in principle agreement months ago, but we couldn't sign because we needed further terms put in there, which we worked hard to get. I mean, these people are giving us over 25 to 30% of their capacity for a long time. So they've got to make sure the project works. They've gone through us like a dose of salts, you know, they have to make sure the project's viable, it's going to work, it's going to provide a steady supply of ore. So that's been done, and now I feel the brakes have come off. We're going full steam ahead. You know, the guys have been waiting at the start line. Forum have now got, I think Jark told me this morning, NDA signed with the major financiers they're approaching, and they're in the process of doing that right now. They're in the data room looking at it. So if you work backwards from the question that I think originated from when we're going to start, if you work backwards, we start as soon as we get the money. And in terms of, and the way Jark set the project up, that will be basically day 2 after he gets the money. He'll be on the ground going. And then there's a period of time to get to the full stockpile and start delivering ore, which is probably 4 to 6 months. But the actual project and digging the ore out will happen very quickly. The project funding, the process is that as I said, we've now had the brakes taken off. We're in front of the banks now. We anticipate a period of, you know, we think it's going to be before Christmas when we get indicative approvals from the ones we're seeking to get it from. And from there, we will look at what other funding we will take to supplement that, because we think the bank funding is going to be somewhere hopefully in the range of 50 to 60% of the project for a project like this. There's plenty of other sort of alternative sources of funding, from streaming to royalties to gold loans to equity. We're looking at all those, and there's people coming to us now to go through those things. So now that they know that the toll treatment agreement's in place and we're looking for funding, I think, Jark, you and I have had 2 or 3 unsolicited approaches again in the last 48 hours from people who know that we're moving. So there will be, you know, stay tuned. There'll be news to come. It'll be done in a responsible way. I promise you that. We'll do it in the best interest of shareholders to preserve value and minimise any dilution. But that's the way. But the whole thing that we're so relieved about is that we've now got this toll treat agreement signed, and I don't think people can understand from our perspective how important that was.
It's significant. It's almost like the first domino to fall in the requirements now to move into the next gold producing company in South Africa. I also would like to draw attention to the market cap here with other peers around the world in the several millions of tons at reasonable grades like yours. 4.3 million tons at average roughly 4.4 grams per ton. If this is in Western Australia and you're starting a toll treatment ahead of a longer startup stage, then I'm sure there'd be much more attention. Do you think the South African discount that's been applied is warranted today?
I think it's, you have to listen to the market, but I think it's been overdone. You know, we would say that, but I think it's starting to come around. People have been predicting the demise of South Africa for a long time. The longer we've gone and it hasn't happened, the more that theory has been dispelled. There's also a whole new age of fund managers and people coming through that aren't sort of burdened by that history or that legacy issues. The other day I saw Theta, one of our peer groups in South Africa, just attracted a $70 million US streaming commitment or conditional commitment from Sprott. So, you know, so that's the first time I've seen Sprott go into South Africa for a long time. So I think those sort of things can act as a catalyst to sort of make everyone else sit up and look around and take notice. You know, there's some very good things happening there now across the board, not just in gold. Jupiter Mines is doing some good stuff. There's lots of companies starting to move forward there on ASX and AIM.
And Jark's on the ground there. One aspect of the company's location highlighted during a roadshow is you're surrounded by historic mines produce not tens of millions of ounces, but hundreds of millions of ounces. So the workforce nearby, the equipment required, you couldn't be in a better place to commence a mining operation.
Absolutely, Peter. I think that's really one of the, let's say, silent benefits that people often overlook with our project. Is that we're 15 kilometers away from the CBD of Joburg. It's in a well-renowned mining area. We've got lots of skills available. We don't have to provide, like accommodation or, anything like that that you would have to provide in the middle of a jungle or middle of a desert, like let's say, typical new mines that's opening up. So I think that those are all things that adds to the benefit of this project, so that also helps the capital outlay on this project. So yeah, I think if you put everything together, South Africa is a renowned mining destination. There's a lot of equipment suppliers in the area. There's, in fact, the equipment that we're looking to deploy on the mine is actually locally made here in South Africa, which, if we add on to the project economics, which adds, it's all rand-based costs that we're currently facing, So I think there's a lot of positives for this project outside of just being a good ore body that we can mine.
That was a question that came through, actually, so you answered that the equipment you need can be produced nearby. You're not having to go and pay US dollars to buy Caterpillar equipment and then ship it in. It's all nearby. You've got skills, you've got experienced gold mining employable staff nearby as well. Let me see, I've got just another question regarding whether the indicative finance offer will be communicated to the market once finalised. I think, as you said, with transparency, the company will keep everybody up to date as much as possible and as timely as possible as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. If we get the indicative commitment, we'll be announcing that as material information as soon as we get it.
Okay, just one other question that's come through. There has been some discussion around the uranium resource there. I know that was a question that was raised on our recent roadshow. Can you give us a little bit of colour around the deposit there and the plans you have for that?
Yep. Peter, so I just need to sort of qualify that to say it's not a resource at the moment. We've got a exploration target of about 12 to 16 million pounds of uranium, and what's nice about this project, it's only to a depth of about 400 meters. We still have the ability to go down to about, say, 1,000 meters or so, or even deeper, so we believe there's quite a bit more to come from our exploration target that we've got. So that's the one positive. The other positive is that now that we've drilled those 3 holes and we've announced them, and they are consistent with the previous target that we identified, we're now in a position where we can decide how best to take this forward. Ideally, we want to now convert this target into a JORC compliant resource. And myself, Michael, and the rest of our board are talking about how to best progress this. I think because it's such a sort of a nice setup where we've got the gold projects, the 4 gold projects sort of in the one corner of the mining lease area, and you've got then the uranium in the other corner of the lease area. We've got options there either to develop ourselves or to, enter into some sort of an agreement with other parties if they are interested, to help to push this forward.
What's interesting too, Peter, is that the uranium sits adjacent to some gold-bearing reefs that we looked at and drilled and have a resource on, but we felt they were a little bit marginal to put into the main mine plan. But now having uranium come back, if they can be mined in conjunction, which they clearly can, according to Jaak, I'll let you talk about that, Jaak, they can, it adds a whole new sort of economic level to the viability of the project. So it could run as a standalone uranium project with gold credits, or it could run as a gold project now with uranium credits. So that's something we never looked at before, because when uranium was going well, gold wasn't going well, and when gold was going well, uranium wasn't going well.
And yeah, for the benefit of those that haven't seen uranium extracted from gold mineralization, can you tell us about the amenability of that process?
So Peter, the ore bodies are actually, it's in the bird reef package, and the bird reef package consists of a series of reefs. And then within that is, I think they call it the upper and lower monarch reef, where, the one reef is a bit more developed or mineralized in uranium, and then the other reef is more mineralized in gold. So the benefit, and they sit about 10 meters apart. So the benefit is you can install one set of infrastructure, shaft infrastructure, and then horizontal infrastructure for this, and then mine them concurrently, or depending on the price of each commodity, you can then decide how you want to mine them, And then the benefit of us going to the Izolweni plant is that they've got a mothball uranium circuit. So, with the uranium prices as they are going, there's probably potential for Sibanye to start looking at the uranium circuit. And then if they do, we can then be sending our ore to their plant for processing as well.
A nice little bonus to have, Jaak. And look, while we have you and some shareholders, quite a few shareholders here today, it'd be remiss not to cover briefly the program and an update from Mount Cecilia.
Thanks, Peter. Yes, I was waiting for that question because we're quite excited to get this project going. As everybody knows, that we entered into a JV with Rio about a couple of months ago, where Rio can, spend up to 4 million, earning 50% of the project, and then they've got the option to spend another 6 million and then earn up to 79%. So in total, they've committed to spend up to 10 million Aussie into the project, and that excites us really, because I believe we've done the groundwork to identify the 8 geological anomalies and the 8 exploration targets really. So what's happening right now is the guys on site have established all the drilling platforms. We want to do an initial drilling program of about 800 meters still this year, this season. I've just had a discussion with the guys. They're telling me it's getting quite hot up there in the Patterson range, so they've got to get a move on to get the holes in. And then we'll see, they're going to focus on the target 1 for now, and then we'll see what this yields for us. So the plan is to start drilling next week, and then we'll wait and see what the results yield. So myself and Michael and the rest of the board are quite excited that this is now actually off the ground and it's going now.
And some of the targets identified there that you'd listed, Rio had different ideas.
Yeah, at the moment, that was sort of around the discussion that we had, that they were focusing on sort of target 1 and target 7. Our main focus was sort of 1 to 4 as we prioritize them. So we'll see, at the moment, we'll focus on target 1. And then if there's anything of significance, then they will move on to the other targets that they've identified themselves, So we don't know, we're quite excited. We've done the aerial magnetic surveys, we've done the ground survey, so there's definitely some geological anomalies there. What they will pan out to be, we'll wait and see.
All right, well, I think we've answered most of the questions there throughout the course of this. Just in summary, Michael, where you are today and what shareholders can look forward to over coming weeks and months.
Yeah, well, I think we're on the precipice of really pushing the button on this and getting it started. I mean, the trauma of getting the mining right and how long that took with COVID and everything, the detailed negotiations we've had to conduct with a major such as Sibanye, which I think people have to keep in mind. You're dealing with a $10 billion US company. It's very, it's slow to get things done, but once you get them done, they're set in concrete. So I think whilst it's been a lot of work to get it done, I think it's providing a really good foundation now, particularly for our bank financing, to show that we're partnered up with a very strong corporate there who's operating in the area and has obviously checked us out properly. So that's a good validation for everyone. So I think, people have been very patient. We appreciate that. We know it's been a long time, but we really think now's the time to really get behind the company and see it through, because we're determined to do that. And we think this is the next 12 months is when we'll be doing that.
And I think just finishing, Jaak, you're a mine operator. That's your DNA. You'll be looking forward to actually getting there and operating this.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. I think it's time that we get this mine going. We've talked a lot. We went, as Michael said, we went through a lot of pain getting the mining right. in place, getting the feasibility studies done. And I believe with the team that we've already set up here, we're ready to sort of press the button and start going, So I think we're entering into an exciting period, not just for the company, but also for the project here in South Africa.
Terrific. Thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations. And thank you to everybody for joining us here today. We look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks. Bye-bye.